Poland and the other German-occupied countries during the war. Oftentimes, we think that all people were faced with the same circumstances, which is far from the truth. The German occupation differed from country to country, and so did the attitude of the populace. Some collaborated, some accepted the occupation and followed orders as not to cause trouble, and others, like Poland, actively resisted. For this, the German occupation, depending on the population's degree of compliance, varied from even friendly to brutal. So let me share with you some of the differences regarding what the Poles faced as opposed to others under the German occupation. Only in Poland did they never capitulate, never surrendered to the invaders, and were fighting from the first to the last day of the war. Only in Poland did they never form a collaborative government, as was the case in other German-occupied countries. Only in Poland, there were never armed troops collaborating with Germany. These were created in almost all other European countries, also those not occupied by Germany, and were even fighting against Germany. Only in Poland, an underground state was created, a phenomenon on a worldwide and historical scale. The Poles alone, in spite of the occupation of their territory, set up an entirely, voluntarily, 650,000-man army, 400,000 AK soldiers, and 250,000 volunteers fighting alongside the Allies in the West. Armies in other countries were recruited mainly from compulsory conscription. Only in Poland did the Germans carry out the plan to completely murder the Polish intelligentsia, the educators, the doctors, the lawyers, the priests, and this was just the beginning. The ultimate goal was the complete extermination of the Poles. Only in Poland did street roundups take place, hunting people on the street, and Poles being the first victims of the Germans, they would sometimes hide in the ghettos or wear Stars of David to avoid roundups. Those captured were sent to slave labor or death camps. Poles comprised the largest amount of slave laborers. Only in Poland, street executions were carried out to terrorize the population. Only in Poland, the Germans murdered more Poles, 3 million, than Jews living in Poland, 2.7 million. Only in Poland, as a result of the German occupation, 22.2% of the Poles lost their lives, and thus Poland suffered the greatest population losses of all countries of the world. For comparison, 0.8% of the Belgians, 1.5% of the French, and 0.8% of the Englishmen died. Only in Poland did the Germans plan and to a large extent implement the idea to wipe Warsaw, the capital of the country, off the face of the earth. In General Plan Ost, the intention over a period of time was to eliminate the Poles from the world. So in fact, it was a planned genocide that just never happened. Here is the attitude of the underground state as well as the majority of the Poles towards the Jews. Only in Poland, no institution of the state took part in the extermination of the Jews. Only in Poland, an institution of the underground state provided help to the Jews. This was Zagoda. Under brutal interrogation, not one Pole ever elicited information. Only in Poland did the underground state prepare and report documentation of the German persecution of the Jews. Only the government of the Republic of Poland appealed to the Allies for help for the Jews in order to protect them from the extermination, which in itself could not prevent. Only in occupied Poland did the Germans introduce the death penalty for the helper and their family for even giving a Jew some water. Only in Poland did the underground state impose the death penalty for a denunciation of the hiding of Jews. An estimate is over 50,000 Poles died helping Jews, even though many Jews felt animosity towards Poles. And sometimes the Poles didn't even know the Jews they were helping. It is up to 3 million Poles helped Jews in some form, even knowing that their lives were at risk. The fact is that thousands of Poles that saved Jews were murdered, and the Jews they saved and their names will never be known to the world. Considering all these facts and the differences the Poles faced in comparison to other people, it is vital to view them in an objective and historical light, that shows the kind of people they were when faced with such terror and facing their own extermination. Would we act as they did during such a brutal and horrific occupation? Would we resist, comply, or collaborate to save our lives? We must all ask ourselves these questions when judging those in the past. The extent that the Polish went to defy the Germans and their brutality, in my opinion, is one of a heroic resistance in the face of overwhelming odds.